exactly how she played too.
Girl is rewinding the same YouTube clip over and over again. That girl grew up to break records nobody thought were breakable. Caitlin Clark didn't build her game from thin air. She built it from 6 people, 6 players who shaped every logo, 3 every no-look pass, every ice-cold stare down. 5 names, you'll nod along. But the 6th one, nobody saw that coming. Not a superstar, not a highlight reel legend. Someone most fans completely forgot existed. Clark didn't forget. She studied that player like a blueprint. Who made Caitlin Clark Caitlin Clark? The answer is wilder than the question. Stay with us because we're about to reveal everything. The name nobody saw coming. Before we get to the legends everyone expects, let's start with the one that stopped the basketball world cold.
Comes off, loose ball, and the Fever have it.
Caitlin Clark was 9 years old, Iowa, and she was completely obsessively glued to a college guard from BYU named Jimmer Fredette. Not LeBron, not Steph, Jimmer. She watched every BYU game she could find. She rewound his highlights until she had them memorized. She wore the "Teach Me How to Jimmer" shirt. She copied his step-back motion, that forward lean, that confidence to pull from distances that made no logical sense for a guard his size. Jimmer's NBA career never matched the hype of his college run. Most people forgot about him years ago. Clark never did, because at 9 years old, something clicked. At watching Jimmer pull up from 35 feet and drain it like a free throw, Clark learned a lesson she never unlearned. You can make too deep into a myth. Range isn't a gift, it's a decision, and that decision changes everything. When a defender has to guard you at half court, the entire floor shifts. Lanes open, cutters get free. Teammates who weren't open a second ago suddenly are. One player willing to shoot from anywhere rewires how 5 defenders have to think.
After the free throws are good.
Clark understood that at 9. Most NBA players never fully figure it out. Jimmer didn't play that way because he was reckless. He played that way because he had done the work. Thousands of reps from distances coaches told him were unrealistic. He proved the distance wasn't the problem, the belief was. Once you solve the belief, the mechanics follow. Clark took that and ran with it further than Jimmer ever could. Years later, Sue Bird arranged a 3-point contest between Clark and Fredette, shooting from ridiculous spots Bird personally selected. Clark won 3-2. She hit a bomb from essentially out of bounds, edged Jimmer, and then looked straight into the camera and deadpanned. Great hanging with the 2 people who invented the 3-point shot. Ice cold, perfect delivery, full circle. But here's what that moment actually proved. Clark didn't just match Jimmer, she out-Jimmered Jimmer. And the student had become something the teacher never reached. And she did it with a smile and a one-liner, completely unbothered.
Was small, so I had good range. I had my step back.
Like hitting impossible shots from impossible spots was just a normal Tuesday. That's the full circle nobody talks about enough. A 9-year-old rewinding BYU highlights in Iowa grows up, breaks college scoring records, plays in sold-out arenas, and then beats her childhood idol in a shooting contest he invented the blueprint for. Jimmer didn't give Clark a career path. Well, he permitted her to stand at the logo and believe the shot was already good before she let it go. Every time Clark pulls up from a distance that makes the commentator gasp, trace it back to that 9-year-old in Iowa, rewinding BYU highlights on repeat. She called him the GOAT. Ask Clark who the greatest basketball player of all time is. She doesn't pause, doesn't think about it. She doesn't add any qualifiers, LeBron James. But here's what separates how Clark talks about LeBron from how most fans do.
Is exactly who Caitlin Clark reminds me of.
She doesn't talk about his points. She talks about his control. LeBron's real superpower across a 20-year career wasn't just athleticism or scoring. It was running an entire offense like a conductor reading the floor before the play developed, manipulating matchups, making the correct decision possession after possession with the whole basketball world watching. Clark absorbed that completely. As a rookie in the WNBA, she didn't arrive just trying to score. She hunted triple-doubles. She stacked assists. She turned every possession into a chess problem only she could solve, drive to draw 3 defenders, then dart a pass to the shooter who didn't know she was open until the ball was already in her hands. That's LeBron basketball, decision-making as a weapon. Then came the real moment. Clark was heading into a game knowing LeBron would be there. She said it hit different because this wasn't just a celebrity in the crowd. This was the player she'd called the GOAT, the one whose vision she'd spent years studying.
Has used theirs. It's an advance of the ball. It's a sub if you want it.
Sitting in the stands to watch her. They met backstage. LeBron went out of his way to wish her luck on the season. He said he follows the WNBA, watches it, and appreciates the way Clark and her teammates play. Then he posted about it on social media. Clark saw it later and said she genuinely thought it might be fake. She had to check twice. Wait, is this actually LeBron James? She knew the photo was real because she recognized herself, but LeBron James posting about her still didn't feel real. Pressure recognizes pressure. The chosen one and the new one both carry the weight of their sport.
Ever love the rebound. I'm shocked you downplayed Savannah.
Both still smiling when the lights get hottest. From LeBron, Clark took the most important lesson in basketball. The most dangerous scorer in the room is often the one who chooses when to score. To the hero she cried for before the logo threes. Before the sold-out arenas and the endorsement deals, there was a kid in Iowa pointing at the TV and saying, "That's who I want to be." That player was Maya Moore. Clark has never been quiet about this. Maya Moore isn't just someone she respected. Clark calls her her favorite player, not one of her favorites, her favorite full stop. 4 NCAA titles at UConn, 4 WNBA championships with Minnesota, 2 Olympic gold medals. A game that had no weak spot, guard a wing, sprint to start the break, post up smaller players, step back and hit threes over length, score 30 or get everyone else involved. She always picked the right one. Winning wasn't a goal for Maya Moore, it was a habit.
Since, as Simone Augustus said, you could play pick a seat in the crowd.
But the numbers don't even tell the full story. What made Maya Moore truly special was the timing of every decision. She never forced a shot when a pass was the right play. She never took over a game just to prove she could. To every possession, she read what the moment needed, and then she delivered exactly that. Not more, not less, exactly that. That kind of basketball IQ doesn't show up in a stat line. It shows up in championship rings. Clark watched that from childhood and understood something fundamental. Being great at basketball isn't about one skill. It's about being complete. And completeness is the hardest thing to build. Most players find one thing they're elite at and spend their whole career leaning on it. Moore never had that limitation. She could beat you 6 different ways on the same possession.
Clark to put the ball on the floor going right, get inside the three-point line. You can't let her have that.
And she had the discipline to pick the right one every single time. That's not natural talent alone. That's years of work, years of watching, years of caring deeply about the craft of the game, not just the results. Clark absorbed all of it. The scoring, yes, but more than that, the unselfishness, the willingness to make the winning play instead of the impressive play. The understanding that a complete player makes everyone around her better just by being on the floor. That's the version of basketball Clark has always wanted to play, and it started with watching Maya Moore do it first. Then came senior night, March 2024. Carver Hawkeye Arena was already electric, the crowd loud, the energy high. And then, without any warning, Maya Moore walked out onto the court. Clark froze. Then she smiled. Then her eyes filled with tears. They hugged, and the arena melted. It wasn't just a fan meeting her hero. It was a passing of the torch right there on the court where Clark had built her entire college legacy.
She doesn't need a lot of time. She doesn't need a lot of space.
Think about what that moment actually meant. Clark had just finished one of the greatest college careers in basketball history. She had broken records, filled arenas, and changed the conversation around women's basketball forever. And in that moment, with the crowd roaring and the cameras everywhere, the only thing that made her cry was seeing the woman she had spent her whole life trying to become. That tells you everything about who Caitlin Clark is. Months later, on SNL's Weekend Update, Clark thanked the women who came before her: Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Dawn Staley, and Maya Moore. That wasn't PR. That was genuine respect for players who filled gyms nobody showed up to, played for paychecks that were almost insulting, and still gave everything they had every single night because they loved the game that much.
Also, and Howard puts it in.
Clark cashes the receipts those women left behind. She never forgets who paid the tab. Someone asked Clark, "Prime Maya Moore, game to 11, how many do you score?" Her answer was immediate. 0, Maya Moore for sure. I'm not scoring, she'd be blocking me. That's not false modesty. That's Clark knowing exactly who set the standard she has been chasing her whole life. The record breaker she replaced. Most players of Clark's age have never actually sat down and watched Pistol Pete Maravich highlights. Clark has, repeatedly, on purpose. Pete Maravich played in the 1970s, no three-point line, no social media, no highlight reels. And yet what he did with a basketball was so far ahead of the era that coaches watching him live genuinely couldn't believe it. No-look passes were thrown before his teammates knew they were open. Randy behind-the-back dribbles through traffic, step-backs from distances that made no logical sense, a swagger and audacity that made basketball feel less like a sport and more like performance art. What makes that even more remarkable is the era he did it in. Basketball in the 1970s was physical, slow, and built around big men. Guards were supposed to run the offense and stay out of the way. Maravich didn't get that memo. He played like someone had shown him a tape from 30 years in the future.
Number 23 possesses good height at 6 feet 5, but he's built on the...
And told him to go figure it out on his own. Coaches didn't know what to do with him. Defenses didn't know how to stop him. He was simply operating on a different frequency than everyone else in the gym. Clark broke his all-time NCAA scoring record. When people asked about it, she didn't downplay the connection. She understood the weight of what that number meant and who she was passing, and she understood it because she had done her homework. Clark didn't stumble onto Maravich's highlights by accident. She sought them out. She studied them. She watched a player from a completely different era of basketball and found something in his game that was still alive, still relevant, still worth learning from 50 years later. That's not something most players think to do. That's the mindset of someone who takes the craft seriously at a level most people never reach. What Clark took from Maravich was never a specific move. It was permission to improvise, to trust her eyes when they saw a play nobody else in the gym could see yet.
For Boston!
To make basketball entertaining without ever losing the game while doing it. That balance is harder than it sounds. A lot of players try to be exciting and end up being sloppy. Maravich never crossed that line. Every flashy play he made was the right play. It just looked impossible until the moment it worked. Clark plays the same way. The no-look pass that leaves the crowd gasping isn't a gamble. She already knew where her teammate was going to be.
And look at Aaliyah Boston's reaction.
She just trusted herself to deliver it before anyone else could see it coming. Watch Clark in transition, a whip pass to the corner that arrives a full beat before the defense turns around. A step back into a shot nobody else would attempt. Then the stare down at the baseline cameras. That look is important. It's not arrogance, it's not showing off. It's the look of someone who knew exactly what was about to happen before it did, and is quietly acknowledging that the play went exactly the way she saw it. Maravich had that same look, that same calm certainty after doing something the rest of the basketball world considered impossible. That's not reckless. That's rehearsed, feel the same thing Maravich played with every night in an era that wasn't ready for him. When Clark passed his all-time mark, it wasn't just a number flipping on a stat sheet. It was a baton pass from the game's original rule bender to the era's most exciting player. Maravich gave Clark the courage to show out. She ran with it every chance she got.
Inbound pass as Cloud.
She took his range, then made it a weapon. If Jimmer lit the fuse at age 9, Steph Curry built the entire factory. Everything about Clark's long-range game carries Curry's fingerprints. The quick trigger off the bounce, the relocation after making a pass, moving before the defense can reset, arriving at a new spot ready to fire before anyone has caught up. The logo 3 that drops so casually, it almost looks routine. Curry normalized the 30-footer in the NBA. Clark industrialized it in the women's game. She didn't just add deep range as a weapon, she made it a system. Defenses have to pick her up the moment she crosses half court, and that pressure cracks everything open. Cutters get lanes, corner shooters get clean looks.
Oh, and a little point afterwards.
Teammates get slips and back cuts. The whole offense flows from the threat of Clark pulling up from wherever she wants. Curry figured out that range isn't just a shot, it's a gravity field. Clark understood the same thing and applied it in ways that changed how the entire WNBA has to be defended. They're worth saying, Curry himself has pushed back when people reduce Clark to just a shooter. He's right. Her passing, rebounding, and pace control are elite in completely separate lanes. The Curry comparison is accurate for the range revolution. It doesn't begin to capture everything else she brings, but the confidence to shoot from anywhere and the mechanics to make it repeatable game after game? That's Curry's gift to this era. Clark grabbed it, upgraded it, and made it entirely her own. The quiet blueprint and what it all built. Kevin Durant doesn't come up as loudly as LeBron or Steph when people talk about Clark's influences, but watch closely and his philosophy is everywhere. Durant's whole thing was being unguardable from every spot on the floor.
Got a piece of the ball. Rockets also come away with a rebound.
Three-pointer, mid-range, post-up, transition, it didn't matter where you put him. He had a clean answer. The defense had to pick its poison, and every option was wrong. Clark runs the same logic. Sag off her, Hona, and she buries the three before the defender finishes deciding. Chase her over screens, and she shifts gears, attacks the lane, finishes through contact, or finds the cutter before help defense can rotate. Taller than most guards she faces, she shoots over contests cleanly and toggles between pure scorer and full facilitator based on what the game needs in that exact possession. It's not about copying Durant's specific moves. It's a mindset, a moving problem that never lets the defense settle. Hanayo, change what you are every few possessions. Punish whatever coverage they choose. Durant permitted Clark to be multidimensional. Not just a shooter, not just a passer, a complete offensive weapon that can attack from any direction, at any range, in any situation.
Well, it certainly wasn't easy.
That's the hardest thing to stop in basketball, and it's the thing Clark does better than almost anyone playing right now. And here's the beautiful thing about all six of these names put together. Clark watched Maya Moore the way kids today watch Clark. She wore Jimmer's shirt the way fans now wear her number. She broke Pistol Pete's record and plays with his joy every single night. She studied LeBron's vision, borrowed KD's anywhere-scoring mindset, and rode Steph's range revolution like it was designed specifically for her. And now she's at the other end of it. Right now, somewhere, a kid is rewinding Clark highlights the way Clark rewound Jimmer's. That cycle doesn't stop. It compounds. None of the six comparisons ever fully fit her because she isn't the women's Steph or Ponytail Pete or LeBron with range. She absorbed all six, filtered them through her own instincts and relentless work, and produced something that didn't exist before she arrived. She's the first Caitlin Clark, built from pages she borrowed and a chapter she wrote herself. Next time you watch her play, please track three things: where she relocates after making a pass in a half-court set,
Hitting Boston. Boston fade.
how early defensive pressure on her range opens back cuts and corner threes for teammates, and her first 2 seconds after a timeout inbound the correct play read that shows up every single time. Clock those three and you'll see all six influences operating at once, live in real time. 6 names, 6 different gifts. One player who took all of them and built something nobody had seen before. Maya's completeness, White Pete's fearless creativity, LeBron's chess master vision, Jimmer's audacity from deep, Steph's range revolution, KD's anywhere scoring blueprint. Clark didn't choose one lane. She paved a highway. Now it's your turn. In the comments, rank her 6. Who do you see the most when you watch her play? Curry's gravity, LeBron's vision, Maya's completeness, KD's versatility, Pete's flair, or Jimmer's audacity? Drop your list below. And tell me, what's the one move that defines Clark's game right now? If this gave you a new way to see her game, hit as many more fans find it. Subscribe for smarter WNBA breakdowns every week. See you in the next one.